Today we will study Lagrange's theorem and its consequences. Lagrange's theorem states that the order of a group, subgroup, is a divisor of the order of group. We know that order of a group is nothing but the number of elements in a group. So if G is a finite group and H is a subgroup of G, then we may say number of elements in H divides the number of elements in G, or order of H divides the order of G. Moreover, the number of distinct left cosets of H in G is number of elements in G upon number of elements in H, or the order of G upon order of H. Let A1H, A2H, ARH denote the R distinct left cosets of H in G. Then for each A in G, we have AH equal to AIH for some I. Also, by first property of cosets, we know that A belongs to AH. Thus, each member of G belongs to one of the cosets AIH, either to A1H or A2H or ARH. So, we may express G as the union of these cosets A1H, A2H and ARH. So, we may write G equal to A1H union A2H union ARH. Also, fourth property of cosets says that either two left cosets are identical or they are disjoint, means their intersection is empty. So, by the fourth property of cosets, this union is disjoint. So, we may say that number of elements in G is equal to number of elements in A1H plus number of elements in A2H plus dash 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 number of elements in ARH. Since number of element in AIH is equal to number of elements in H for each I, therefore number of elements in A1H is number of element in H, number of element in A2H equal to number of element in H, number of element in ARH equal to number of element in H, and this is R times. So we may write number of elements in G is equal to number of R times number of element in H. So it means order of G is equal to R times order of H, means order of H divides order of G. Thus we conclude that the order of a subgroup is a divisor of order of a group. Also we may write it as R equal to order of G upon order of H. That is, the number of distinct left cosets of H in G is nothing but order of G upon order of H, because here R is A1H and A2H and ARH, number of cosets in G, and this result may be proved similarly for right cosets as well. Thus, a group of order 12 may have subgroups of order 12, 6, 4, 3, 2 and 1, but no others, because order of a subgroup is a divisor of order of a group. The converse of Lagrange's theorem is not true, because a group of order 12 need not have a subgroup of order 6. Next is, in a finite group, the order of each element of the group divides the order of the group. Means order of A divides order of G, in particular A raised to power order of G is equal to E. Let G be a finite group of order n. Let m be the least positive, m be the order of an element A. We know that the order of an element is the least positive integer such that A raised to power that integer is equal to E. So here m is the order of an element A and m is the least positive integer, therefore A raised to power m is equal to E. And this implies A square, A cube, A raised to power m minus 1, A raised to power m are all distinct and forms a subgroup. And we have learned by Lagrange's theorem that order of a subgroup divides order of a group. Therefore, since this group is of order m, therefore m divides n. n is the order of a group G. Hence, the order of a is a divisor of the order of the group. So, order of each element of the group divides the order of the group. Because m divides n, therefore we may write n equal to mk, where k is positive integer. So, a raised to power n is equal to a raised to power mk, and this is equal to a raised to power m whole raised to power k. A raised to power n is nothing but a raised to power order of g, and this is equal to a raised to power m is e raised to power k is k. Therefore, a raised to power order of g is equal to identity element of the group. Now, groups of prime order are cyclic. Suppose that G has a prime order. Prime means the number which is divisible by 1, the number itself. It is not divisible by any number like 2, 3, 5, 7, dash dash and so on. Let A belongs to G and A is not equal to E. Since the order of an element divides the order of a group, therefore we say that order of A divides order of G and order of A is not equal to 1 because A is not an identity element. Thus, order of G is equal to order of A equal to order of G because order of G is prime number and it is not divisible by any other number. This implies order of the cyclic group of G generated by A is equal to order of a group. Means G is identical with the cyclic subgroup generated by A. This implies G is cyclic. So we have shown group of prime order are cyclic. Now the Fermat's principle. Fermat's theorem states that for every integer A and every prime P, A raised to power P is congruent to A mod P. We know that if A raised to power P is congruent to A mod P, it means P minus A is divisible by P. Let G be the set of non-zero residue classes of integers modulo the prime P. So G is a group of order P minus 1 with respect to multiplication of residue classes. The identity element of this group is 1. Suppose P is a divisor of A because it is not necessary that P is a divisor of A. There are two cases if P is a divisor of A or P is not a divisor of A. So we have considered first case as suppose P is a divisor of A. So in this case, residue class A is equal to residue class of 0. So residue class of A is not an element of G. Since P divides A, it must also divide A raised to power P. Therefore, P must also divide A raised to power P minus A. And this implies A raised to power P is congruent to A mod P by definition. Now, second case is suppose P is not a divisor of A. In this case, residue class of A is not equal to residue class of 0 because P is not a divisor of A. And so, residue class of A is an element of G. And we know that A raised to power n equal to G means A raised to power order of G is equal to E. Here, the residue class of A is the element of G and 1 is the unit element. Therefore, residue class of A raised to power order of G is equal to residue class of 1 because this is the identity element and this is the element and this is the order of G. Order of G is nothing but P minus 1. Therefore, residue class of A raised to power P minus 1 is equal to residue class 1. And this is equal to residue class of A raised to power P minus 1 equal to residue class of 1. Because residue class of A raised to power P minus 1 may be written as a residue class of A raised to power P minus 1. This implies a raised to p minus 1 is congruent to 1 mod p. And this implies a raised to p minus 1 is divisible by p. And this implies if we multiply a raised to p minus 1 by a, then also it is divisible by p. And a into a raised to p minus 1 is nothing but a raised to p minus a, and this is also divisible by p. It means a raised to p is congruent to a mod p. Now the center of a group. We denote the center of a group by ZG. Actually, it comes from the German word for center is Zentrum. So the center ZG of a group, G is the subset of elements in G that commutes with every element of G. Remember this? It should commute with every element of G. So ZG is equal to the set of elements A belonging to G such that AX equal to XA for all X in G. Now we prove that center of a group G is a subgroup of G. Clearly, E belongs to ZG, so ZG is non-empty because E commutes with every element of G. EX is equal to XC is equal to E. Now suppose that A and B belongs to ZG and X belongs to G. So we may write AB into X as A into BX. And BX is equal to XB because elements of the ZG commute with every element of G. And by associativity, this is equal to AX into B. Also, AX is equal to XA because every element of ZG commute with element of G. And this is equal to X into AB by associativity. So we have proved that AB, X is equal to X into AB. It means AB commutes with X. Means, but X is the element of G, and we know that every element of ZG commute with every element in G. Therefore, AB belongs to ZG. I want to remind one thing. To prove any subgroup, any subset to be a subgroup of a given group, we need to prove that if A and B are any element of a subgroup, then their product is also in that subgroup. If A is any element of a subgroup, then its inverse, A inverse, is also in subgroup. If these two conditions are satisfied, then that subset is a subgroup of G. So to prove that any subset is a group G, any subset to be a subgroup, we need only two properties. Their product of two elements should be in that set, and the inverse of each element of the set should also belong to that set. If these two conditions are satisfied, then that subset is a subgroup of a given group. So first we have proved that if A and B are elements of ZG, then AB, product of A and B, is also in ZG. Now we will prove that if A belongs to ZG, then A inverse also belongs to ZG. And A inverse will belong to ZG if it commutes with all the elements of X in G. So what we want to show is that A inverse X belongs to is equal to XA inverse. If we multiply both sides of this, if we multiply on the left and right of this equation, AX equal to XA, then we get this inequality. We know that AX is equal to XA because A is the element of ZG and X is the element of G. And elements of ZG commute with every element of G, therefore AX is equal to XA. Now we pre-multiply and post-multiply both sides of this equation by A inverse. So A inverse into AX into A inverse. A inverse into XA into A inverse. By associativity, we may write A inverse A equal to X inverse into X inverse, and this side A inverse X into A inverse. But A inverse A is the identity element because A is also the element of G. So A inverse is equal to A inverse A is equal to identity element. So E into X, A inverse X into E. This A inverse is E, this A inverse A equal to E. And E into X is X into E is X. So we are left with X, A inverse equal to A inverse X. It means A inverse commute with each element of G, and it means A inverse belongs to ZG whenever A belongs to ZG. So both the conditions are satisfied. Therefore the set ZG satisfies both the conditions, and therefore ZG is a subgroup of G. Hence the center of a group G is a subgroup of G. Next is centralizer of A in G. Let A be a fixed element of a group G. The centralizer of A in G, CA, is the set of all the elements in G which commutes with A. Here A is the fixed element. So CA is equal to G belonging to G such that GA equal to AG, and A should be the fixed element. Now for each A in a group G, the centralizer of A is a subgroup of G. Its proof is simple and may be proved as the proof of the center of a group is a subgroup of G. Following the same pattern, we may prove that centralizer of A is a subgroup of G. Now the Lagrange's theorem has been around more than 200 years, longer than group theory itself. It's very surprising. Lagrange stated his version of theorem in 1770, but the first complete proof was given by Abati some 30 years later. This theorem was not originally stated in a group theoretic terms.